Watch this. Every time you move your feet on defense, you're actually creating the gap your opponent scores through. Hi everyone, I'm Xiao Han. Today, I want to talk about something most amateur players get wrong: footwork during defense. You'd think moving your feet more would help, but unnecessary footwork actually creates openings your opponent can exploit. If you push with good spin and angle, your opponent already has enough trouble just getting the ball on the table. So don't create problems for yourself. When you shuffle your feet right before the ball arrives, you throw off your own spacing and end up jamming yourself. You have to use your eyes first, watch where the ball is going, then shift your weight toward it. Not your feet, your weight. Just bind your center of gravity to the ball and respond. Simple and clean. Honestly, in most match situations, you don't even need to reach out that far. Think about it. Your opponent's placement range isn't as wide as you imagine. The gaps on the table, you're the one creating them. When you stand in the right position, your opponent doesn't even know where to attack. You plant yourself right there, and suddenly they're the ones struggling to find an angle. Next, second point, defending against power loops. When your opponent attacks a half-high push, a flat punchy shot, don't flinch and don't dodge. The faster the incoming ball, the more your racket needs to be out in front of you. Think of it like a rebounding wall. If you pull your hand back even slightly, you can't match the speed. Watch my partner drives one at me. I set up right here, racket forward, and the ball just comes back. But if I draw my hand back, I'm late every time. I simply can't keep up with the speed when my hand is behind me. So the rule is, the harder they drive, the further forward your racket stays. You meet the ball early and let the speed work for you. Now, when your opponent plays a slower, higher arc, a spin loop, you can afford to bring your hand back a little and take your time. But the instant they speed up, your hand goes forward again. Right at the front of your body. Now the key is your arm position. Think about where your arm ends up after a forehand drive. You've swung, and your arm has come forward, right? That finishing position, with the racket close to your body, is exactly where you want to be for defending against a power loop. Close to the body. Now pay attention to rhythm. You have to match your opponent's tempo. If they punch, you punch back at the same beat. It's like singing. If the rhythm goes boom boom, you answer boom boom. You can't be a half beat slow. Here's a common scenario. You push the ball short, then lean in over the table. Now your opponent attacks and you're caught with your weight forward, completely unable to defend. So after every push, recover immediately. Get your weight back, hands in front, ready outside the table. From that position, you're not afraid of anything. The balls you can never defend in time are almost always the ones where you just played a short touch or a half-long ball and got stuck leaning in. So hands must stay in front of your body for defense. That's non-negotiable. Now, the second situation you'll face is the change of pace player. You know the type. They loop slowly, drawing you in, and then suddenly accelerate. They watch you, read your position, and create a huge tempo difference. One ball is soft and spinny, the next is a rocket. That speed variation is extremely hard to defend. For the faster, more direct balls through the middle, You can use either forehand or backhand, both work. I generally prefer backhand because the transition is fastest. Then, so what do you do against a heavy spin loop? That high, arcing topspin. The first instinct might be to press down on it or counterloop, but let me show you the best approach. The key is to stay close and smother the ball. You want to get tight to the ball and just guide it back, smother it. Trying to press, push, or rip against heavy topspin usually sends it off the end. The real solution starts before the loop even happens. Control your push quality. If you push with heavy backspin, your opponent borrows that energy and loops with even more rotation. Instead, push forward with less spin, more of a floating feed. When there's less backspin to grab, their loop loses intensity and becomes much easier to handle. After that, change your push rhythm, less spin, or push a bit longer so they can't load up as much rotation. Lift your hand up and use a short, compact touch, just a quick tap. Trying to counterloop or quick drive against heavy topspin is unreliable. Why? Because to counterloop, you need to generate more friction than the incoming spin. Can you really do that? It's extremely difficult. So instead, keep your hand up and use a short, punchy block. The key is speed of contact. If your stroke is too slow or too long, the ball flies past the end of the table. Think of it like swatting a mosquito. You get close, and then a quick, sudden tap. You don't wind up, you don't swing through. Watch my hand as the ball arrives. I stay close and just touch it. That's the feeling. Now let's talk about the forehand side, because forehand defense against a heavy topspin loop can be even scarier. Watch what I do. If the incoming loop has normal spin, you angle the black side of the racket toward your opponent. The racket face points forward, fairly neutral. But when the ball carries really heavy topspin, you change the angle. Now you point the black side of the racket down toward the table. You close the racket face much more aggressively, pressing it over the top of the ball. Don't be afraid to press down, commit to that closed angle, and smother the rotation. If you keep going long, that's your signal to switch to this heavier press. Watch what happens when the racket face is too open. The hand comes up high, and the ball sails long every time. If you add any arc on top of that, it flies even further off the end. So instead, press down toward the table. Angle the racket face over the ball and push it down into the surface. Watch I press toward the table, and the ball stays short and low. Even when my partner loops hard, the ball drops back on. Notice my hand stays compact. There's no big swing. I'm just covering the ball from above with a short, firm motion. Think of it as capping the spin. You're putting a lid on the ball's rotation. When your opponent's loop slows down even slightly, that's your window to adjust. Anytime you see them dip under the ball, loading up heavy spin, your first instinct should be to lift your hand into position, and your second instinct should be to close the racket face. Try blocking forward first. But the moment a forward block starts sailing long, switch immediately to the cover technique. Close the face and press over the top. I strongly recommend against trying to counterloop at the amateur level. It's too difficult and too inconsistent.